look myself in the mirror and accept that if you weren't a racist, you condone what a racist did. So that's, to me, the same thing. It's the same thing. So
I agree with you completely.
Sounds to really make you rub and scrub. Slang badang badang bong biddly biddly bong. Bong biddly 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 bong. I said, pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. It's a go bun.
Anthony, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
I appreciate it.
You got a big show. You got a big following. So God bless you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Both of you, welcome to the show. I greatly appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, and good morning.
The floor is yours.
Whatever it is, it'll keep till the morning. Haven't we both got better things to do? Midnight blue.
I'm on your side, I still care. I may have died, but I've gone nowhere. Just think of me, I'll be there. Just think of me, I'll be there. There you go. Bit rusty.
Oh. You know what? I gotta tell you, usually I make my guests get a little emotional if I find something that touches them. You got me this time. So viewers, you're always telling me you got this one emotional. That got me emotional. I had to wipe my eyes.
No.
Since you told me you've seen some of the shows already, welcome, Johnny, of course. You know the running joke on my show is, because you're 6 hours ahead of me.
Oh, yeah.
I need the lottery numbers.
But, what do you mean? These ones?
There you go. I love it.
I'm one step ahead of you, man.
Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing. Forget about it. Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Now, make sure you hit that button, whatever corner it's in, and subscribe on your cell phone, whatever button, subscribe, and leave your comments below the show. I always personally interact with all comments left on my videos. As well, follow me on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, it's at BadBradRSR. Check out my great writing team on ringsidereport.com. Lots of diversity, lots of fantastic writers. And as well, shout out to my hashtag BBB crew on Twitter. Thank you for the support from all around the world. I see you guys moving humanity forward. I see you putting hashtag BBB crew in your bios, and collectively we're going to make changes in the world. Well, today, folks, I truly have a special guest on my show. I consider him my brother from another mother. He's one of the most beautiful human beings I have ever met in my life, who always wants to put the spotlight on me, but I want to put it on him today. So he is a boxing trainer. He is a man that served his country in the Air Force for a couple of years. He worked for the post office for many, many years, retired. And he's a humanitarian who, like me, pulls no punches, speaks his mind, and I adore him. So without further ado, and I cannot leave this out, he is my brother who was inducted this year in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame 2021 class, which he proudly, as I do, wears the ring, and we're brothers there too. And we will always be brothers. I love this man. So without further ado, forget about it. Please welcome to my show, the one, the only, Luis Camacho. All right, my brother down in Florida with 80 some odd degree weather. Luis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Brad. You know, you make me feel like, right now I'm a little nervous, because to come to your program, I'm overwhelmed. You know, I'm honored because I know that in here you bring very famous people. To name a few, like you have brought Mary L. Trump. You have brought the Mush, you know, Scaramucci. I mean, those people, I enjoy when you interview them. So me, just a boxing trainer, you bring me to your program. You know, you're not bad, Brad. You are good, Brad.
Don't tell anybody. Well, it's an honor to have you on too, my fellow brother in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the interview. But let's start out like this. Whenever I bring guests on for the very first time, we do what I call a 360 interview. So it gives my viewers a whole view of you and your life and your thoughts. First thing I like to do is ask you, with COVID going on for almost 2 years now, how have you dealt with COVID? What have you done in your personal life? And how are things where you are in Florida as far as COVID and cases?
Well, I'm talking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I do, I follow the science. The first thing I follow the science was with the vaccine. I have my 2 vaccines and I had the number 3, the third one, last month. So I try to stay, you know, by myself. The only people that come to my house is Louis Jr. and his wife and a close friend that I live with. Everybody else, we talk on the phone. I'm always with my 2 dogs. I'm by myself.
Okay. And are cases spiking with the new variant, or are they coming down where you're at, or what are you seeing?
Well, they say they are coming up.
Okay.
The whatever Omicron, whatever. Yeah, they say it's coming up. So that's why I'm a little more strict now. I'm staying away from everybody until things clear out.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you got boosted and vaccinated, and you're moving, as I always say on my show, moving humanity forward, and you believe in the science. And I appreciate that you do, because a lot of people, as we know, they don't, and they want to get us sick, even though we've been vaccinated. You know, you could still get it, but you got a better chance of dealing with it if you were to get it. So I appreciate that you get vaccinated and you got boosted. And folks, if you didn't know, this young man is 84?
84.
And you look like you're 64. I swear to God, if anybody found a fountain of youth, it's you, Luis. You, son of a bitch, you look 64 years old.
You know, Brad, maybe that's why I love you. That's why I call you my little brother. And I hope that you don't get offended, because I tell everybody, you're my little brother, even though you are tall, you're young, you're white, and you're good looking. So, but still, you know.
We are definitely brothers. All right, what I want to do is I want to go back at the beginning and then move forward in the interview. So you were born in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico, back in 1937. What I'd like you to do is talk about growing up in Puerto Rico, in that city.
Let me tell you, Brad, growing up in those days, I'm talking about 84 years ago, right? When you talk about being poor, I mean P-O-O-R, I was very, very poor. I mean, you know, I was the only boy and 4 sisters. My mother and my stepfather, they will leave in the morning at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We don't see them until the evening. And it was very, very hard. That's why the moment I finished high school, I joined the Air Force, trying to look for a better, you know, better way of life.
Okay. What, as far as like population, what was population around, you know, people living in your town? Was it a big town or not a big, small?
No, very small town. Rio Grande is, you know, one of those little towns, not too many people, because they are spread all over. It's not like when we live here in the state, a house is next to the other one. So I would say Rio Grande was far up north, like going into the Luquillo Beach area and El Yunque, which are the, you know, where the tourists more or less will go.
Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Okay. And then you mentioned in 1956, you joined the Air Force, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So first of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate that. Talk about what you did in the Air Force and talk about some of your duty stations or where you went. Because I know you mentioned you were out here in, I think, Kokomo, Indiana, and you were freezing. But talk about when you went in, what you did, and where you were stationed.
Well, that was very hard, to tell you the truth. See, because in Puerto Rico, to join the Army was easy. But to join the Air Force or the Navy was a little more complicated. You got to go through 3 different tests. For the Army, you pass 1 test and you're in. So I had to pass 3 tests. Then they sent me to Ramey Air Base in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. That was for, like introduction to where I was gonna be over the next 4 years. So from there, they sent me to Shaw Air Base in South Carolina. From there, they sent me to the training camp in San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Base, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And after being there through basic training, that's when they sent me then back to Indiana, where I stayed for about maybe a year. From Indiana, they sent me then to Hawaii for the next 2.5 years. From Hawaii, I TDY to Japan and to the Philippines. Then when my 4 years were over, I wanted to retire because I wanted to go back home and, do something else.
Right.
I learned so much in 4 years and I felt that I was ready to go on my own. So they sent me to Travis Air Base in California for my discharge. So that's where I got discharged. So now I'm free. I took an airplane and I went to New York to visit my sister that I haven't seen in 4 years. So staying over in New York for a few weeks, some sort of got hooked to New York. So I went to Puerto Rico to see my family back home. And about a month or 2 later, I moved to New York.
Okay. Now, what did you do in the Air Force?
The Air Force, I was working in POL. You know what that is?
Mm-mm. Petroleum,
Oiling, and Lubrication of Jets.
Ah, okay.
So that's what I was in the flight line, with those big yellow trucks with JP4. Mm-hmm. So that's why I didn't want to, I didn't like that job. In cold weather, it's very cold. So
and noisy. You're always wearing earphones and noise.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you landed in New York, you fell in love in New York. When you made the move from Puerto Rico to New York, around, that was about 1960, 1961?
1961, yes.
Okay, 1961. So I know you worked at the post office for a lot of years. What year did you get on with the post office?
Well, first, when I went to New York, I went all kind of jobs. I work in electronics, like making phonograph. Remember those phonographs?
Oh, yeah.
45 and 78.
Yep, 78 records.
I worked in a company for a few years in Yonkers, New York.
We used to go to Yonkers Raceway, to the racetrack.
Oh, yeah. So a friend of mine told me, they're having tests for city jobs and the federal government. So they have the city job sanitation, and they have the police, and also for the post office. And the post office, somewhat, for some reason, it pulls me. And I said, I'm going to take the one for the post office. And I went to take it, just hoping that they will call me in a year or so. They called me a week later to come in. And I joined the post office September 9, that was 1961 or 62.
Okay. And now when you got hired on, my grandfather, God rest his soul, on the Italian side of the family, he worked at the post office in Pontiac, Michigan. And he basically did everything from delivery mail to working the ramp where the mail comes through in the warehouse. He did everything. Then he became a supervisor. Then he worked on equipment. What were some of the jobs that you did over your years in the post office?
Well, at the beginning, you do everything. You go on the street, you deliver in those high buildings in New York, you break up the mail, you unload the truck, everything. But through the years, then I went up, and I became some sort of what they call a group leader because I didn't want to be a supervisor. Every time they told me, take the test, you're gonna be, it's easy, you will pass it, but I did not want to become a supervisor because I saw, the aggravation to being a supervisor, all the problems and so forth. I've had to deal with all kind of people. Mm-hmm. And so I said no. But then I wound up working in the reg cage in the last few years. I would say my last 10 years was working. The reg cage is when you have all the registered mail.
Okay.
All the important mail that you have to sign in, even the carrier had to come into your little office. So that's where I spent my last 10 years in the post office.
And where were you at in New York?
I was at Madison Square Post Office, across from Baruch College on 23rd and Lexington Avenue.
Okay, Lexington Avenue. Okay. So military, went into the post office for all those years. Where and when did your love of boxing start?
Well, it started in the Air Force. And you're probably familiar with that because you're a Navy man, you're a career man, and so forth. They told me that if I joined the boxing team, they will take me out of KPs. You remember?
Yeah, oh yeah, I know KPs.
So I started in the Air Force, just going around. But I realized that I was not really for boxing because every time I sparred, I would get a headache. I'm talking about a bad migraine headache. So I think I boxed twice. I lost twice, sad to say. And I wound up in bad headaches. And then I found out why after I got discharged. When I was a kid, I fell downstairs backward. You know those, well, you wouldn't know. But in Puerto Rico, those high, those houses that they're in tall stilts, not on the ground.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then those low stairs to the back. Mm-hmm. So I fell backward and my head hit a rock in the bottom. And I got a big scar here still yet. So they told me boxing shouldn't be for you because you're gonna get killed.
Okay.
And then I quit. But when I went to New York, I started going back because like you know how it is in boxing. You're a boxing man. Once the ball bite on your ass, you yeah. So I went there just to look around and just hit the bag and practice. And this guy owned the gym, Artie Colon. We call him Coloncito. He was a short little guy. And that guy was probably my motivation. He was a coach. He was a teacher. He was so sweet with the kids and everything. And when he asked me if I wanted to box, I said, no, I just want to train because I suffer from migraine headaches and I can box. So he started helping me. And then one time he said to me, because I call him Coloncito, he called me, Camachito, why don't you help me with the kid? You seem to have the patience and you seem to know what you're doing. I said, no, but I don't think, I was never a professional boxer. I never really boxed, other than 2 fights, which I lost. He said, you don't have to be a boxer to become a teacher in boxing. And that sounds to me like, wow, I could if I learn from you. So that's how I became a trainer, helping him. And then I graduated a little bit. Then the Golden Glove in New York. Then at that time, they had the Latin gloves in New York. Mm-hmm. So that's how I developed into my 57 years of being a trainer.
Okay, longer than that, 4 years longer than I've been alive. Now, you were the director and head coach of the Bronxchester Boxing Club that was located in the Bronx, New York. Is that correct?
Right, yes. Okay.
Talk about how you got into doing that.
Okay, first I was, going in with Coloncito's gym. That was the West Side AC, West Side Athletic Club.
Okay.
But then a friend of mine, his name was Tom Lear. He was the director of the Bronxchester Little League. Okay? Mm-hmm. Had nothing to do with boxing. That was baseball. But then there was a gym 2 blocks away from my house. It was called the Castle Hill Boxing Club. They did a lot of wrong things, so the city closed it. Okay? So Tom Lear approaches me. He knew about my boxing because I knew, you know, we had relations, you know, family relations and so forth. We would go together, have a drink, you know, wine that I drink. And he asked me, how would you like to reopen a gym? You know, the gym that is next to your house. And I said, well, that sounds good to me. So he talked to a couple of politicians because he had a lot of, you know, he had a lot of connection with politicians. And they reopened the gym. They, you know, donated some equipment and so forth. And that's how I became the director and later the owner of that gym.
Okay. And you have talk about this as well. You have an extensive background doing, and you mentioned some of them, with amateur boxing. So talk about, we're going to talk about the professional side, but talk about your extensive time doing amateur boxing.
Well, you know, the biggest amateur boxing tournament in the country was the New York Golden Glove.
Right.
That Golden Glove tournament goes from January to April. That used to be something, I mean, out of this world. So I started entering guys in the Golden Glove, and I used to make a champion or two every year. So my reputation as a coach with the Bronchester Boxing Club became known in all New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. So back in the 70s, I had a kid named Alex the Bronx Bomber Ramos. If you remember that kid by
he used to wear the Yankee shorts when he turned pro.
Exactly. He was the only one that Mr. George Steinbrenner allowed to wear the Yankee pinstripe.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex became a superstar in the Golden Glove. See, so he won the first 3 Golden Gloves from 147 to 156 to 160. Then for the 4th Golden Glove, and you probably remember that, this is history. We were going to Poland, you know,
mm-hmm.
for a tournament in Poland. But I was supposed to be one of the coaches. You know, Sergeant Johnson was,
yep.
Oh, you remember him.
Oh, yeah.
The greatest coaches the amateur program ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So Sergeant Johnson had picked me to be his assistant because he wanted to take Alex Ramos. That's when Alex Ramos was knocking out the Cubans and the Russians and so forth. But just a few weeks before the trip, they pulled me out. And you know the politics in boxing. You know, in Colorado Springs, the politics are worse than in Washington. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they pulled me and put somebody else to take my place. And when they called me and told me that they will give me the next trip to wherever, maybe to Cuba or maybe to Puerto Rico, like if I'm a Latino, I have to go to the Latino places. You know, to me, that was an insult.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If I am not going, Alex Ramos is not going either. And they said, no, you cannot do that because we will do this and this too. I said, I don't care what you do because Alex will be better staying in New York for his 4th Golden Glove that will make history because he will be fighting 4 different classes. So that's what I did. And by doing that, Brad, my brother, that's what I'm here talking to you today because the plane crashed.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
And Sergeant Johnson, all the guys, and the people that were there, everybody died in that crash. And that was one of the things that really, really shocked me.
Mm.
And this is something else because I didn't know that. And I was training Alex for the 4th Golden Glove. So Alex, be living in the area where he used to live, you know, Brook Avenue, 130th Street, one of the worst drug-infested area in the Bronx. So I used to bring him to live with me every time he had a big fight. So Alex was in my house, staying in my house for the Golden Glove tournament. I didn't know about that accident, and I was working in the post office that night because I used to work midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning. But in the morning, I used to go and get Alex to go running to Central Park. So that morning, around 7 o'clock in the morning, they called my boss, and they said they want to talk to me. You know who wanted to talk to me? You remember that girl from ABC White Walls Sport? Beautiful black lady, young, pretty girl.
Wild World of Sports.
Yes.
I can't think of who it is off the top of my head.
By the time we finish, I will remember the name.
Okay.
So they said that she was downstairs with a whole crew that she wanted to talk to me. And my boss said, "What did you do, Luis?" I said, "I have no clue." Chichi Williams. That was her name. Chichi Williams.
Okay.
Look it up later.
Okay.
Chichi Williams was downstairs. And she had interviewed me before about Alex. So the first thing she come to say to me, "Oh, Luis, I am so sorry." And I said, "Sorry about what?" I said, "Sorry about Alex." And I said, "But what Alex are you talking about, Chichi?" So she said, "Alex Ramos, your boxer." He said, "Well, Alex Ramos," but she wasn't taping. She was just giving me like a...
Right. She thought he was on the plane.
Right. And then I said, "Alex? What happened to Alex? Alex is in my house sleeping, and I'm going to wake him up at 8:30 to go running to Central Park." So she said, hold on. Let's start filming. "Do you mean that Alex was not in the plane?" And I said, "What plane?" Then that's when she told me the plane with Al Johnson and the U.S. team and everything had crashed in Poland, and everybody was there. So she said to me, "Can we go to your house now and talk to Alex?" And I said, "Well, it's only 7 o'clock and I don't get off until 8 o'clock. So my boss said, "Louis, go ahead. I take care of that. I check your car and everything. Go ahead." Because, my boss was, Mr. Palmero was a sweetheart with me. And he, if I had to go away, he would give me the time. So he said, "No, go home. I take care of your car. I heat it up for you." So she followed me all the way home. And I go run upstairs, and Alex is still in bed, sleeping. And I said, "Alex, Chichi Williams is downstairs. She want to talk to you." And I said, "What she want with me? Why can't she wait until I win my 4th Golden Glove?" I said, "Alex, this is serious and sad. The plane crashed." And the first thing he said, "Oh my God, Sar Johnson and Pimentel." Pimentel was a beautiful 112-pound Dominican kid from New York. Oh, he was a darling. So that was the first thing he said. "Oh my God, Pimentel and Sar Johnson?" So I said, "Yeah." So Alex started like some sort of crying, and we went downstairs, and then they started filming and telling us the whole story.
Wow, sad. I remember that. It was sad.
Yeah, it was real sad. Yeah.
Tragedy. Talking about amateur boxing. I boxed, as you know, from when I was inducted, 80 to 83. Why do you think today you don't see as many amateur venues for boxers?
Well, I think is that there are so many things in the streets now that pull the boxers away from training, from the gyms and so forth, number one. Right now at this time, I don't see the dedicated trainers that used to train the kids for the love of the sport. I don't see the kind of, teacher, father figure, grandfather figure that will go to the house and talk to the parents about the kids and so forth. And also now everything is so expensive that when you go to a gym, for example, back in the days at Bronchester Boxing Club, it was $5 if you are a kid under 16, $10 if you were over 18 to whatever. But if you were, a single parent kid that had no income, you will train free. So things like that, I don't think are happening anymore.
Okay. Now you worked as a boxing trainer, cut man, conditioning coach, and masseur. Is there one job out of those jobs that you enjoy doing the most?
No, I like to be a trainer because you see, being a trainer is not just being a trainer, being a coach. You must have the ability to be a teacher because that's what you are. You're a teacher. You don't talk about boxing. You talk about everything in general. You talk about the human being, the human body. You tell them about what to eat and what not to eat. And you're drinking water now, Brad. That's one thing we tell them. Don't drink water when you're thirsty. That is too late. Your body, your brain is sending a message that your body is dehydrated. Mm-hmm. Drink water at all times.
Right. Okay. Now you worked with fighters like you said, Alex Ramos, Danny Santiago. You worked the corner of Pernell Whitaker. What fight did you work for Pernell Whitaker?
When he fought for his first title.
Against Ramirez?
No. It was oh my gosh. That was his first title at the 135 pound.
Because I thought, for some reason, I thought his first shot was against Ramirez and it was a draw, but it wasn't. I could be wrong on that.
No, we'll check it out again because
okay.
Later on we'll get the name. I still have that information.
Okay. In June of this year, you got inducted, the class of 2021, into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame from all of these things that we just talked about, what you did amateurs, what you did in the pros. When you got that phone call did you get the phone call from Steve or who called you to tell you?
Yeah, Mr. Steve Canton.
What was it like to hear that?
I don't know. To be honest with you, Brad, I don't even have the words to explain because first I thought it was a joke. Let me put it to you that. And Steve and I, we have spoken before. As a matter of fact, 2 years before our induction, I went to the induction for the Hall of Fame. And I met him again. We took some pictures and so forth. When Steve called me, he was like you believe it and you want to believe it, but you have doubts. So I said, oh my gosh. And after he told me, he wanted to see me January 6th in Fort Myers and so forth. And I was so happy. The first person I called was my son, Louis Jr. And I said, but I don't believe it. It's going to be only a nominee. So it will take years before they really will induct me, I told my son. So I don't think I'm going. And my son said, no, Dad, it is an honor to be a nominee. Even if you don't get inducted this year or next year, it is an honor. Just go. And because he told me that, just go. That's why, let me tell you. And then when I found out that one guy that I had admired so much for so long, that I had spoken to him, but I never met him in person, he was going to be inducted in the same day, June 20, in the Boxing Hall of Fame. So it was like an extra push, extra journey. You know who I'm talking about?
No idea. I wonder what happened to that guy.
Well, that guy is the man I'm honored to call my little brother, Brad Berkwitt.
It was funny, folks, for the viewers watching. So Friday night, they have a professional card. Saturday night's the banquet. Sunday was our induction. So I'm like all the way on the side, like it was packed. The ballroom was packed for the fight. Someone, I think Carol Meyer, somebody introduced me to you or something. I don't know how it was. And Luis said, hold on a second. You're bad. Yeah. He said, man, you know how many times I talked to you on Facebook, which I remember that, but we never met. We never met in person. But social media, we had talked because we had a common enemy, and his initials are DJT that we don't like. And then we were like, oh my God. And then from that point on, we were inseparable. But I got to tell you, folks, watching this show, so Saturday night is the banquet, and they announced Luis, and he's not 84 yet. He's 83 3/4 old that night. And he gets up and he salsas. And the whole place is just going crazy while he's salsa dancing, which if you watch the clip, look him up on the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame YouTube channel. He salsas a little bit when they announce him up to the stage. So talking about salsa, how does salsa come into your life?
Wow. I don't know if you have enough time because this is a long story. My mother, may she rest in peace, she was a dancer. Okay? She danced until she was like 80 or 81, and she passed when she was 84. And I always say, oh, Ma, I like the way you dance. I said, well, that's easy. I said, no, it's not that easy. He says, very easy. Pay attention to the music. Pay attention to the leading instrument. Don't listen to the lyrics and follow with rhythm and momentum. You move your body from the feet all the way up to your head according to the rhythm and momentum of the music. So I started dancing. She started teaching me. And at the age of 15, I won my first dancing competition in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And I liked it, and I kept on. And then back in New York in 1965, with my sister, I won the all-around salsa contest at the Manhattan Center.
Okay.
That is in Facebook. You can find it.
Okay. That's something else. And you still do it? I mean, that's part of your exercise thing? Because I know you stay in shape. Do you do it? I mean, you do it at home, or I mean, what do you do?
Well, right now, we used to go out to people's houses and in Ocala, and they had a club. As a matter of fact, the name of the club was New York City Club.
Okay.
They used to have salsa, and then on Fridays, and we used to go dancing. But after the pandemic, during the pandemic, I haven't been dancing, but I dance in my house. Like every weekend, I do half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour of dancing for exercise and just to practice the movement.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to a little bit of boxing again. Who is your favorite fighter of all time?
Joe the Bronx, the Brown Bomber Lewis. That was my favorite, and still to me is one of my favorite of all time.
You know, when I'm asked who do you think the greatest heavyweight champion is, everybody thinks I'm going to say, and don't get me wrong, he was a great fighter, he's a legend. Everybody always says, they think that I'm going to say Ali. I say Joe Louis. They say, Joe Louis, you meant to say? I said, yeah, Joe Louis was the greatest of all time. Okay. What is your personal favorite fight of all time?
Favorite fight of all time? I would say Hagler and Tommy Hearns. Was that Tommy?
Yeah.
4 rounds.
3 rounds.
Or 3 rounds. That was the fight that I was off my seat.
Well, I'm gonna go back to a place that you mentioned earlier in the interview, Yonkers Raceway. So Marvin Hagler fought Tommy Hearns on April 15th, 1985. My Uncle Gene, the Italian side of my family, and I had worked in New York City that morning and afternoon. We drove to Yonkers Raceway to watch the fight in the days of, you remember when I used to have closed circuit? Before pay-per-view, you'd have closed circuit.
Yeah.
So we went and we watched the fight at Yonkers Raceway. And that was the best 3 rounds I have ever seen in my life. You know, he split Hagler's head open. And then when he knocked Tommy out, his body went limp and he just fell. And it was over. But the punches they landed on each other was wow.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about that, and we just talked about that was a closed circuit fight. How do you feel today? I know we've talked offline about it, and I know it drives you nuts as it does me, that you see all of these fights on pay-per-view, and I didn't mind the big fights on pay-per-view, but they're putting fighters that aren't worthy to be on pay-per-view. We know it's a money grab, but everything is pay-per-view now, and also they have these 2 brothers, these YouTube guys that you I don't know if you know them, the Paul brothers. The one just fought Floyd Mayweather, and the other one was going to fight Tyson Fury's brother, but he dropped out of the fight. Now he's fighting this guy that he fought before. For me, as a lover of the sport of boxing, I always love the sport. I feel that they're bastardizing the sport by letting like Floyd Mayweather go to 50-0 fighting Conor McGregor, who never had a fight. That shouldn't have been sanctioned. What's your thoughts on the state of boxing today and all these pay-per-views?
I agree with you 100%. Your opinion about they are just messing around with the sport of boxing. The whole thing now is money.
Yeah.
And because of the media and all these so many millions of followers, then they withdraw the money right there. Even though, like, to me, that was a joke.
Yep.
Mayweather and the MMA guy.
Yeah, Conor McGregor.
That was a joke.
Yeah, he carried him. That fight was fixed. He carried him.
But I heard he made like 100 million.
Yeah.
And,
They made millions. They grifted. Okay. This question has a couple parts to it, and I want you to put your boxing hat on for it. I want to give you different parts of a fighter, and I want you to make one fighter out of these different parts. So I'm going to give you a part of boxing that a fighter does, and you give me a fighter's name, and this is what we're going to take all of those fighters and make one fighter. So it'll be a fun question. So who would you pick, and you could have any choice, Luis, for a jab? Who would you, if you had to pick a jab of a fighter, who would you pick if you're putting a fighter together?
Larry Holmes.
I agree. Yep. Okay. Right hand.
Oh, right hand. Oh my gosh. Was that Rocky Marciano's right hand that was so powerful?
It was, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we got Larry Holmes' jab, Rocky Marciano's right hand. Uppercut.
Uppercut, Mike Tyson's.
Okay.
That sneaky uppercut and a double leg with a rubber right hand, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah. Yep. Left hook.
Oh my God. See, I am what they call the teacher of the left hook.
Okay.
That's been my trademark. So I will say Evander's Holyfield left hook.
Really?
Yes.
Over Joe Frazier and Tommy Morrison?
Well, Tommy Morrison, yes, that was a beauty. But the problem with Tommy Morrison is that everything dies after the third or the fourth round.
Right.
And I can tell you why. I always said it, but nobody heard me. And I even told John Brown, that was the one who was, you know.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You remember Joe Brown, that he used to ringside and all. I even told John, somebody has to get in his head and teach him percentage power. I call that PP, percentage power. Do you know what that means? That means that when you go in the first round, you don't unload everything powerful like Tommy Morrison used to do. No, you go 40%, 50%, 60%.
Okay, yeah.
You loop the right hand with a 40, 50%, and then you follow with a hook to the body, maybe 50, 60%. You only unload 100% when you got it hurt, when you want to finish it.
Right. Because you're expending all that energy. You go all, and then you got nothing left to go to this. Because if you don't knock everybody out, then what do you do by like you said, the fourth, fifth, sixth round? You're dead. You're gone.
And that was a problem with Tommy Morrison, because to me, he was a perfect machine.
Yeah.
Beautiful boxer, beautiful body, a lot of skills, perfect left hook, everything. But he didn't have that condition.
Okay. What did you think of Joe Frazier's left hook?
I don't like, personally, that's what is called the Philadelphia hook. And I'm going to tell you why. You criticize me and I will take your criticism. The left hook, supposedly, is the hook, is the punch that hit you on your blind spot, the peripheral view. Now, Joe Frazier comes from down the kneecap all the way around to land a left hook. A lot of power because he got a lot of swing. Lewis used to have the left hook here, and all he had to do was turn a little bit to the left with the uppercut and turn around with the hook. 90 degrees, no further than that. From here to right here.
Okay. Body work. Who are you picking for body work?
Body work. Oh my gosh. There are so many guys. I will go first with Chavez.
Okay, Chavez is a great one.
Chavez
yeah,
Senior.
oh yeah, no, the son, forget about it. Yeah, the son, no, senior, absolutely. You know who I love body work? Mike McCallum.
Well, yes, they used to call him the body snatcher.
Right.
I was gonna say his name, but since Alex Ramos beat him in the amateurs.
Oh, did he really?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Footwork.
Footwork. Oh my gosh. Footwork. Sugar Ray Robinson.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Speed.
Speed. Sugar Ray Leonard.
Okay. Ring generalship.
Well, here we got Oscar de la Hoya.
Mm-hmm.
I like he had just about everything. I would say Sugar Ray Leonard until he started mimicking Muhammad Ali and not doing all this Ali shuffles and all these winding things. I think he lost a few points from there down.
Okay.
He was the most complete fighter.
He was a great fighter. Okay, and the last category for a fighter to put it together, a complete fighter, stamina.
Stamina. Oh, no. Jesus Christ. That you got me because, everybody that I can remember is always coming full. I mean, they go to the hills, they go to the country. I'm talking about the elite fighter.
Right.
Yeah.
Ali had good stamina. When Ali trained, he had good stamina.
I would say, yeah, I would agree with you. Ali was always in the best of shape.
Yeah, I mean, in his window too. I always say to people, for me, at least my opinion, Ali should. I wish he would have retired after the Thriller in Manila in '75. I wish that would have been it. But he still, even when he lost to Leon Spinks because he didn't train and he was over the hill, he was shot by then. When he came back, he got himself in enough shape, even at that faded stage, to beat Spinks. But okay, before we segue into the random fun questions that I always ask my guests, we're not going to get into politics too deep, but I would be remiss. We both share that we do not like Donald Trump. We actually despise Donald Trump. I am going to ask you exactly who, but I am going to ask you as someone coming from Puerto Rico. I know you left there years ago, but you still got family there.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you one thing in particular because it's relevant to probably your family who's still there. His handling of Hurricane Maria. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to tell you this straight out. And this is my honest feeling, my opinion about him. When he threw paper towels to the
crowd. I had a note right here. Yep, go ahead.
That was an insult to the Puerto Rican people. Everybody was pissed off with him. But what can you expect? What can you expect? You tell me from an impersonator of a politician, an impersonator of a president. I mean, you can expect any better. I mean, does he realize what he was doing? I don't think he was smart enough to know. So let's forget about that guy.
Yeah. And when they asked him, when they questioned him, what you just said, that was insulting. He came back and he said, oh, they enjoyed it. I mean, which is a stupid comment. Really, really stupid. Okay.
Well, to prove how stupid he is, do you remember what he said to that other jerk from Texas, Cruz, about his wife and his father?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you right now. He called his wife a pig, and he said his father helped kill Kennedy.
What, see?
Yeah.
And then what is Cruz doing today?
Kissing his ass. Kissing his ass.
I don't think he got any Mexican blood because he got no cojones.
No. And his name is not Ted. His name is Rafael. He doesn't even want. He's from Canada. He's Hispanic. I think he's Cuban or something like that. He won't even talk about that side of his family because I don't know if he's embarrassed of it or not. But no, he has no balls. Okay, let's segue into the fun random questions. There's no right or wrong answers. Whatever you come with off the top of your head. You ready?
As ready as I can be.
Okay. And I know because we've talked offline, you got a lot of knowledge about some of these things. So first one is, what is your favorite genre types of movies to watch?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you got me. Suspense. And I give you an idea. because you're gonna ask me which one is the best movie or which one I like the
That's
best.
the next question.
Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you before you ask me.
Okay.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh,
Clint Eastwood.
yes.
And
Eli Wallach. Lee Van Cleef and Eli Wallach.
That's the best of all time. That's
Well,
my favorite.
Love it. 1960 spaghetti Western. When I get off the Zoom interview with you today, I don't think I sent it to you. On the wall over here, you can't see it off camera. I wrote a letter. Yeah, you can't see it because it's on the other side. I'm going to send you a picture. I'm going to text to you. I wrote a letter when my father passed away a year after to Eli Wallach. I got his address and he lived in New York City.
Wow.
And people used to, true story, they used to stop my father on the street because they thought he was Eli Wallach because they looked like each other, especially when he was younger. In The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he was in a movie called The Misfits with Clark Gable. So I wrote to Eli Wallach and I sent him one of my dad's acting pictures. And he wrote me a letter back and he said, he does look like me. And he said, you know, the chin or the forehead. And he also knew my dad's uncle. So I'm going to send it to you. And from that day forward till maybe 2 or 3 years before he died, I think he died in 2014, lived to be almost 100. He would send me a Christmas card, Eli Wallach, who I loved. And him and Clint Eastwood loved each other. They were great in that. Okay, so you beat me to it, favorite movie. So my next question is, who is your favorite actor?
Denzel Washington.
Okay. What's your favorite Denzel movie?
Oh man. Man on Fire. I love that movie. I love them all. But Man on Fire, that was the movie that I really want to watch over and over.
Great movie, great movie. Now flip that. Who's your favorite actress?
I would say Julia Roberts.
Okay, Julia Roberts. Okay, I've interviewed her brother, Eric Roberts, on my show.
Oh, he is a good actor too.
Yeah. He doesn't get all the parts like he used to, but when he gets a good part, he's really, really good. Okay, favorite, and I know you love this stuff. Favorite musical band?
I don't know if you can say this is a band, but the Temptations.
Yeah, well, group, yeah.
Those were my favorite of all time, even though I always like Barry White, remember with his orchestra.
Yeah.
Those, but the Temptations, top, number one.
Okay, so let me ask you this, being a Temptations fan, who do you like better in the lead, David Ruffin or Dennis Edwards?
I would say David Ruffin.
Me too, David Ruffin too.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the TV movie they did back in 1998, The Temptations?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, great movie. Great movie. Okay. What is the favorite concert you've ever been to?
Lou Rawls.
Okay.
Yeah, when he said that, you lost my loving feeling.
Yeah, you'll never find another love like mine. Yeah.
When he went in that high note, and
he was good.
Voice. That's the one that I remember of all time.
Okay, and he used to host I think it was for the United Negro College Fund. He used to host this show to raise money. Love Lou Rawls. And I got to tell you, folks, watching the show. So I put up a video when we first moved into our new house after we came back from right before we went to the Hall of Fame, we moved into our new house. And I had a video of my stuff going down the stairs. And Luis has such a good ear for music. I had a song, but it was done by Simply Red, Positively, and I can't think, was it Positively? What was the name of the song? Because Bob Dylan did it, but you knew the Bob Dylan version.
Yes.
And you said you love this song. What is it called? Positively?
23rd Street or something.
Something like that. And Luis said, I know that song, but I don't know who's singing it, but I know the Bob Dylan version. And he was right, because I didn't know the Bob Dylan version. So I went and listened to it because you got a good ear. Okay. Solo for these ones. Who's your favorite male singer?
Johnny Mathis.
Oh, chances are.
Everything.
Everything.
You see, my first wife met him in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, and after that, I mean, we fell in love with Johnny Mathis.
Okay, great singer. Now flip that. Who is your favorite female singer?
I gotta say Dolly Parton. That little girl's voice is still the same. I would say Dolly Parton.
Okay, love her too. Now, I know you lived in the city, and I did see you driving a car on one of those videos, that documentary they did that you were in. But I'm curious, were you ever, the man question, were you ever into cars? Did you like hot rods or anything, or were cars not your thing?
No, cars are not my thing. I go for cars that are supposed to be safe and comfortable. Like I'm a Lincoln driver.
Okay.
And in my last few years, my son and I have, then I changed to a more comfortable, more secure car because he always called me the old man. So I switched to Mercedes.
Okay. All right. What is your favorite noise or sound to hear?
I don't know if you're familiar with that, but in Puerto Rico, you know, the houses were metal, tin roof. That rain, when it hits,
yes,
it's like a melody that you can't imitate.
Okay.
My favorite sound.
Okay. Now flip that. Your least favorite noise or sound?
I'm gonna tell you, you know, when people suffer from that stomach thing that comes on, they go, oh, and they can't stop it. I go,
okay.
That's
okay.
the worst.
Okay. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Don't laugh, okay? Promise me you won't laugh. Pizza.
Are you kidding me? Me too. I love pizza. But
yes.
Okay, but I got to ask you, and I think you're going to agree with me, but I'm going to ask you whatever your opinion is. For the viewers watching, because they know how I feel, I don't pull no punches.
I know.
New York style pizza or Chicago style pizza?
I don't know about any other pizza better than New York style pizza.
I love you. Now,
love you
and Louise, you know this. Follow me here. The slice, you take and you fold it in half and you let the oil drip off.
Yeah.
Like this.
You're talking about, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Before COVID, did you have a favorite vacation destination that you like to go to on vacation?
Not really. I like Puerto Rico, but in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, Puerto Rico changed so much. And the way the island is, you know, with the crime. So
okay.
I wouldn't.
But, I'm gonna circle back, and it's not a question on the paper, but off the top of my head, I want to ask you, since you grew up there, you're born there, and you still have family. Do you think in our lifetimes we're going to see Puerto Rico become a state?
Well, there have been the stories since I was a kid. I mean, forever it have been back and forth, back and forth. But you know, like they say with these politicians, and that's why I said believe in politics 1%. In my old sayings of what is to believe in life. I think I publish that like once every 2 weeks, you know, some personal sayings that I put in Facebook. That the first thing I put it, believe in politics 1%.
Okay.
Because the politician runs everything the way they want it, not the way we need it, or the one that the majority want.
Do you think it should become a state? Are you for statehood for Puerto Rico?
I would say so.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Do you have a hobby?
Well, yes, gardening. I am what is called, I am a Marion County, you know, Ocala, Marion County Master Gardener.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we take a course by the University of Florida for 3 months. We pass a test, and we have to give them free time in return. So, like every year, I used to give them 75 hours. Then they cut it to 50. Now, because I have been a master gardener for 15 years, now I only have to give them 10 hours of free time, which is, you know, teaching people how to grow bananas up north or papayas or what to plant and what not to plant because of the weather up north.
Okay. If you could meet one person from any time in history, dead or alive, any walk of life, who would you like to meet, and what would you either ask them or what would you like to talk to them about? Anyone you want.
Jesus. Anyone?
Anybody.
You know, for years, I've been thinking about this, that I would like to meet former President Barack Obama and ask him, while you were the president, or even today, aren't you afraid that you will wind up like Martin Luther King?
Okay.
Something, because I always wondered, being the first Black president in this country. And let's face it, you know, racism is there.
Oh,
still.
it's always been.
It's always been. So I was always afraid that he would be assassinated.
Okay. With everything we discussed today, Luis, if you had to sum yourself up in a few thoughts as a human being, what would you say?
Okay. I am what you call a street disciplinarian. In training, in my house, with my kids, and I will also say I'm a pussycat, easy-go-lucky kid. You know, to this day, my son and I, we play like kids, you know, and he's 46 and we play and, you know, I divide myself. When I'm a street, I'm a street. I'm a disciplinarian. That's what I am. But the old man, I'm a pussycat.
Okay. And your daughters would say the same thing, huh?
Yeah, that's what my daughters say. My daughters say, hey, Dad. And, you know, when they come to visit me, they treat me like I was, you know, the old man that is the kid, still the kid. And that's the way I want to feel.
But you know what? I think, honestly, I think all of us should hold on to some of that, because I think that's what keeps you vibrant, keeps you, as you get older. I think when we have that still in us, that fun, it helps us. It really does. And especially in these days and times, you got to find a silver line. You got to find something, because there's so much insanity going on in the world that we can't, you know, we want to change and we try to change, or even if we show kindness or whatever to somebody, you know, that's a beautiful thing. But what's going on in the world right now, back to what you're saying about with racism and just such a polar divide, thanks to Donald Trump. Didn't put it in place. He flamed it. It was already here, but he just made it worse with his using the bully pulpit to divide us. And I don't remember a time in my 53 years that we've been more divided than we are now. But I would agree with your analysis of yourself. Finally, what is the saying, if you have one, that you live your life by?
Oh, this is one you will like. Okay, ready? Salsa is my drug and dancing is my dealer.
Well, and that's I'm going to call, we're going to name this Luis-isms. That's the new name, Luis-isms, because when he gave his speech, Luis and I sat next to each other. And if you watch, I get up and I kiss him on the cheek and he hugs me back. He gives me a kiss on the cheek when I went up, because I went up before him on the stage. And then he was shortly after me when we got inducted. When he said his speech, he said, boxing, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm paraphrasing, something about when you're in love with it, it's about, you say it was about your girlfriend, or then you when you go out or something. Say that what you're talking about, because I'm close.
It says, you know, boxing is like marriage.
Yes, there it is.
You know, in marriage, you get the ring at the beginning. In boxing, you don't get the ring. You have to give everything at the beginning. And if you're lucky, you get the ring at the end.
There you go.
And then with boxing, you know, little by little, you fall in love, and then it becomes your girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, there you go. Well, Luis, I'm going to give you my parting thoughts, and I'm going to give the mic back to you to close out. You watch my show. I appreciate your support. You know I'm about moving humanity forward. I try to bring on people that I feel in their personal life, in their professional life, that they've given back to humanity. And I think that's so important today, because humanity is in trouble. So when I meet people and I see their actions, not just their words, but their actions, I'm so touched by it. And you are an example of that. when he was at the Hall of Fame, everybody at the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, they adore you. Even though you say you're a strict disciplinarian when it comes to training your fighters, I totally understand all of that. You have to be, but you also have a love for your fighters. You're not you're type of person that you pull no punches. If a fighter that you train needed to retire, you're going to tell them, look, it's over. They may go on, but it's over. And I'm not going to be, a lot of trainers, they go too far with the fighter because it's money. And I'm not for that. I think that you have to be honest with a fighter. When they're on their heels, you have to be honest with them. Now, they can go on and do what they want, but I couldn't be part of it. You gave back through the Bronxchester Boxing Club because I watched videos on you. You are absolutely beloved in the sport. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you, which is amazing in the sport of boxing, because in boxing, they're always talking about somebody. They're always finding something to say negative about somebody, because I love the sport, but it's a dirty business. It is.
It is.
You're beloved in the sport. I love you. You're my big brother. Even though I'm an only child, you are my big brother. When I get to your age, and I hope the hell I do, I got many years to go, I want to be like you, because you're just the personification of everything that is good in this world. And Debbie adores you. I mean, whenever I say I've spoken to you on a text, or you told me something funny, or when you sent us the stuff to put in a drink, even though I couldn't do it, she could do it. I couldn't do the taste. Even though I put everything in, I couldn't. But see, I have a low tolerance for if the taste. But she adores you, and I adore you.
He's a sweetheart. As a matter of fact, give her a hug and a kiss for me, not for you.
I will.
Don't cheat her.
Absolutely. But I want you to know that you give back to humanity, and I appreciate you. Now, what I want to do is give you back the mic, and you close out with any thoughts you want to put out.
Well, first thing first, you know that I call you my little brother. And I told my son, yeah, he is my little brother. So you guys are related, even though he's good looking, he's younger, but because I like your personality. I like what you stand for. I watch your shows because you pull no punches. You're like a referee. You call it like you see it. And that is something that I admire and respect from you. See, and today, you know, thinking about all the people that you interview, you know, these are famous people, and bringing me, just a boxing trainer, to your show, that is overwhelming. And I thank you, my little brother. And I will not call you bad Brad, call you the good Brad.
My viewers are going to tease me because they keep saying to me, your nickname is Bad Brad, but you do all this good stuff. I don't understand it. And, you know, you're talking about Anthony Scaramucci. You mentioned him, the Mooch, earlier.
Mooch, yeah.
When I did his show, Mooch FM, he said to me, he asked me, he said, what is it with this Bad Brad? Because you do all this good stuff. I said, look, I got the tattoo right here. So when I get to heaven, they'll be able to identify me. And Anthony said, let me tell you something, pal. You and I are going to, at best, get to purgatory. We're not getting to heaven. We may not even know anybody in heaven, but you and I are going to purgatory with your tattoo, without Bad Brad. But never think that you're just a boxing trainer, because you've touched lives, Luis, and I mean that from the heart. You have left an indelible mark on people's lives, especially when you were back in New York. You and I have talked a lot offline about the people that you have helped. You're on the right side of history, which I appreciate. You care about humanity. When you say you believe in the science, that's caring about humanity. You and I know science is always evolving, so things change. You know, they always want to attack Dr. Fauci, but the man has given half of his life to doing good things, and now because of Trump and his cult, they want to attack him. It's not right. And you speak out about those things, and I appreciate that, because your voice matters and you have touched people's lives. So you're not just a boxing trainer to me, you're a humanitarian. And I love you and I appreciate you for it. And again, thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me, my little brother. You know I love you. You know I love that sweetheart of yours. Mm-hmm. Don't forget.
Exactly.
From me.
I will. And then, folks, I'm going to say, Goodbye to my brother in Florida, where it's 80 some odd degrees, and today it was windy and like 30 degrees here in Indiana. So on that note, and I must say, I'm going to take a shot at Luis Jr. I know Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers. I just want you to know that's his son's stuff, because they're going to say, oh, Luis is a big Tampa Bay fan. That's not the, no. That's Luis Jr.
I'm in his house. So whatever he does, he's the king of this house.
He's the king of his house. But if you look off camera, there's a little plaque with a gold thing. That's Luis's plaque. That's in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame Museum, and that's his picture on there. And I can see it in the background. So on that note, hey, Luis, I love you, and I will talk to you soon.
Bless you. Be safe. You and the sweetheart.
Absolutely. Take care. Hey, folks. That's another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Forget about it in the can. Did I tell you we're going to love Luis Camacho? I adore him. He's my big brother. I can't say enough great things about this man. He's just the epitome of a humanitarian who gives back, who is just, he's just beautiful. He's just, you know, Jimmy Durante was an individual in Hollywood who was adored by everybody. And my father, I recorded him one time talking to somebody, and at Jimmy Durante's funeral, Marlon Brando was there. And Ernest Borgnine, the famous actor, couldn't believe it. Marlon Brando didn't go out hardly. And he turned to me and said, Marlon, what are you doing here? He said, I just adored him. I love this man. Marlon Brando and Jimmy Durante. I mean, you would never think those two together, but he adored him. Luis is like my Jimmy Durante. He's just one of those people that is adored by everybody. I meant it when I said it on the show. Never heard a bad word said about him. And that's pretty good in the sport of boxing, because they always got something effing negative to say about somebody. Those are the type of people that I want to bring on my show, moving humanity forward through boxing, through being on the right side of history. And Luis is all of those things. Just love him to death. Love you, Luis. All right, folks. Remember, hit that button and subscribe. Leave your comments below the video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, at BadBradRSR. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad. Hey, folks, it's the man with the pinky ring and a New York thing. Forget about it, Bad Brad Berkwitt. And I want to talk to you about advertising on the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. If you would like to advertise, contact me at ringsidereport2014@gmail.com. Again, that's ringsidereport2014@gmail.com. Or call the Ringside Report office at 703-517-2155. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and a New York thing. Forget about it, Bad Brad Berkwitt. I want to talk to you about my book, Boxing Interviews of a Lifetime by me. Forget about it. There it is. If you would like to pick up a copy of it, go to authorhouse.com. Again, that's authorhouse.com. If you would like to get it personally autographed with the message that you want in it, or you want me to put something in it, I can take care of that too. You just got to pay postage and handling to Indiana, and we can talk about that in the future. All right, again, Boxing Interviews of a Lifetime is the book. Pick it up. Bad Brad.